Hello, my name is Paul Shrimpling. I'm Managing Director of Remarkable Practice and creator of Business Bite Size for Accountants. Now, for the last 30 years, I've been engrossed and completely enthralled by the world of sales and marketing. 10 of those 30 years, I was running a manufacturing business making beautiful handmade sofas and chairs for the world's best interior designers, and grew that from scratch up to £1 million of turnover. Highly profitable, and set my parents up in a decent pension fund. For 13 of those 30 years, I've worked solely and exclusively with the partners and managers of accountancy firms around the UK and also in the United States of America. And in those 13 years, I've discovered certain things that work brilliantly in sales and marketing for accountants, and certain things that absolutely do not work for accountants. And so what we're going to do on this video is run through one fundamental principle and one fundamental thing that determines, ultimately decides on how much fee growth, profit growth and capital value growth you can achieve for you and your firm. And it's something you as an accountant know about, but it's something you don't necessarily do enough about. And it was interesting, before we were getting ready for this video, getting prepared and making a few notes and so forth, Sally and I were talking about what is it that, or Sally asked me a question, what is it that determines the accountancy firms that are really successful? You know, the Rob Walshes of Clear Vision, Simon Chaplin of Greenstones, who over the years have created a fabulous accountancy business that's really rather successful, generates great profits and is generating great capital value growth too, from all the others. And when I thought about it, it's like, well, actually both Simon and Rob and the others that we work with are open-minded. They're ready for what is it that can help them be more successful. But not only are they open and ready for that, they'll take an idea, a concept, a process and test it within their firm, with their customers, with prospects and so forth. And if the test doesn't work, they'll draw a line under it, but they remain open and find something else, test it. And when they find something that really works, they then roll it out across the firm. And then, as a consequence, benefit from the results, whether it be additional fees, additional profits, or additional capital value growth, or all three put together. So, I'm going to share with you the one thing that ultimately I believe, from the 13 years I've worked closely with accountancy firms, that determines their success, success being fee growth, profit growth and capital value growth, and then see how you can make the most of that in video 2 and 3. So let's turn to what I consider to be the 3 types of work you and your firm do with your clients. And this is where most firms, I believe, misunderstand what matters most, really. There's 3 types of work. 3 types of work. First type of work is T work. T for technical work. Technical work is doing the annual accounts, management accounts, payroll, audit, forecasting, budgeting, tax returns, corporate tax returns, specialist tax work. There's all the technical work that you as an accountancy firm do, and actually if you analyse your diary time and the diary time of all the people in your firm, this will dominate your diaries. Your 80% plus of your time as a firm will be dedicated to the technical work in your business, in your firm. And when I have done, ask firms how they rate their ability in this technical arena, out of 10, 1 to 10, where 10 is perfect, typically, well, what would you say? Well, chances are you'd say what all the other firms say when I ask them this question, and they give themselves an answer of 9 or 10 out of 10. The modest ones give us an 8.5, but ultimately it's around the 9. So technically, I know you as a firm, you as an accountant, are technically sound at what you're doing, and I tend not to interfere in what they're doing there, because the technical work has to be done well, hasn't it? Then there's another type of work. That other type of work is the workflow work. That could be an S for speed. How fast do you get the technical work done in your customer's mind? Not in your mind, in your perception of it, but in your customer's mind. So for example, I'm probably a pain in the neck customer for most accountancy firms, but the firm that I work with held my post-year end draft accounts meeting 10 days after my year end date. Now that's fast. So he's turned that round really rather quickly. But I insist on that because that's just before I go on holiday and I want to determine whether I'm eating in 5-star restaurants, 4-star restaurants or McDonald's. So this is the work that determines how fast the high quality technical work gets done in your firm. And when I ask firms how would they score that, typically the answer that comes back, bearing in mind a 10 out of 10 would be a firm that is, and I can point you to a couple of firms who do this, who generate a set of draft accounts and have a client meeting around that draft accounts in less than 13 weeks of the business owner's year-end date. So that's a 10 out of 10. So that is a context. Typically, firms come back to me and say, well, this is how good we are at workflow. The speed with which work flows through our business, annual accounts work flows through our firm, is at about it's usually a 6 or a 7. So let's go with 6. Some firms would suggest a 5. And then there's the last work, or the last type of work, but definitely not least, is the R work. R stands for relationship work. So there's the relationship work that takes place in your firm. Now what does that mean exactly? Well, this is the stuff that means you're in communication with your customers. There's only 2 things really that take place in terms of building a relationship. 1 is meetings and 2 is calls. Park the calls for a minute. So ultimately, this is about the volume and the value of the meetings you have with your customers, with your clients. A 10 out of 10 in this arena would be a grade A and grade B client in your firm seen a minimum of 4 times a year. So if you're seeing all of your A grades and all of your B grades a minimum of 4 times a year, give yourself a 10 out of 10. Typically, the firms that I go and work with on a consulting and advisory non-exec basis would give themselves a score, probably similar to yours, of about 4 out of 10 in this arena. Now this is what matters most around this. Rarely, I think once in the last 13 years when I've asked this series of questions, has the order been different from highest, middle, lowest. One occasion has it been anything other than that. And these 2 were flipped over. This one's always the highest. So it's not like this is random in any way, shape or form. I'm almost certain that you're probably scoring in a similar way, or at least saying this is better than this, which is better than this. Let's turn this on its tail. Which one of these matters most to your customer? Is it the quality of the technical work, the speed with which it's done, or the trusted advisor relationship they have with you and your firm? And now I suggest, and the feedback that I get from all the accountants I ask this question of is, this is the one area that matters most. This, to the customer that is, this one area, meetings, that should arguably be M for meetings, is the thing that matters most to customers. And if we took a lesson from Jan Carlson, now Jan Carlson ran a business called SAS, Scandinavian Air Services, and completely and utterly turned that around in a very brief 18-month window. It was on the slippery slope to nowhere, and he turned it into a very, very successful, fast-growing business. And he determined that it's the moments of truth between you and your firm and your customer that ultimately influence whether you're successful or not. It influences, in an accountancy practice, 4 things and only 4 things. So, hear me now, this is the piece of this video. The relationship work is the most important work, but 80% of your diary time is invested in this. 10-15% is invested in this, maybe 5-10% in this. It's in balance, out of balance. You need to balance this up. This needs to become as important as this, which is as important as this, which is why I've used a Venn diagram, 3 circles, all interconnecting. Because ultimately, when you and your practice operate in this zone here, you've got well and truly balanced the relationship, workflow and technical work in your practice. Let's just go here, moments of truth, meetings. How do you change this? Well, it's down to just 2 things. The volume of meetings, the number of meetings you have, and the quality of the meetings that you have. So drive the number up, drive the quality up of those meetings, and guess what? This starts to balance, and you get 4 things that you're not getting at the moment. So for the last 12 months I've worked with a 10 partner firm, and in the last 12 months we've had 5 meetings with that 10 partner firm, and during that year each of the partners have agreed to drive up the number of meetings with their top 40 clients. My suggestion was that they had 1 additional meeting this year compared with the previous year with each one of their top 40 clients. Some went for top 20, some went for top 40, but ultimately it's resulted in more meetings. More meetings has driven £174,000 worth of net profit to their bottom line that they weren't expecting. So, more meetings, better meetings deliver a more loyal client, deliver more cross-selling opportunities and sales according to this 10 partner firm. Third in that list is, does more meetings, more valuable meetings, is it likely to deliver you more recommendations, referrals, or less? Or the same? Well, I would suggest more, because your clients will be impressed and therefore they're more likely to recommend you, especially if you can have a referral conversation with them, but that's coming in video 2 or 3. And then last but not least, does having more meetings and more valuable meetings make your clients more willing to accept a price increase than they otherwise would be? I would suggest more. So manage this better, balance this better, and you have more loyal clients buying more services, recommending you more, and happy to take a price increase from you. That's where the power of balancing the relationship work with the technical work and the workflow work in your practice. Get this, and all of a sudden you start to see the work you do in a slightly different light, but an important light. This work, according to your customers, is more important to them than this work. So do more of this, do it better, and guess what? You get more loyal clients, more cross sales, more referrals, and better prices. One of the challenges that I face from partners and accountants is if they're going to have more meetings, what the hell do they talk about? So you might have a post-year-end meeting, well you almost certainly will. You have a pre-year-end meeting. You might have management accounts meetings with your clients, and some of the firms we work with have a either a COC or a PNP meeting. COC is cup of coffee meeting. Sit down, chew the fat, just have a customer care cup of coffee. PNP stands for the Lancashire version, which is a pie and a pint meeting. So it's got less to do with the accounts and more to do with them as a business owner and their business. Now, sometimes that can feel a little bit loose and a little bit vague. So what we've done is partly develop business bite size. So this happens to be, interestingly enough, the how to make your profits take off through caring customer contact. So caring customer contact is the vehicle with which you drive your profits, your fees, your capital value up. And business bite size, here's a this is the Remarkable Practice version. Here's one of our subscribers. MHI have the exclusive rights to distribute business bite size with their logo and branding colour into Watford, Rickmansworth, that area of North London. What's important here is that here in this 4-page report is enough high value content to have a meaningful conversation with your clients. So if you're wondering what to talk about, go and talk to them about this. It's not complicated. In fact, if your customer gets enthralled by this, and it is written very well so that they do, and it signposts the book which this information comes from, you've got the opportunity to delve deeper into the several pages of support tools and resources that enable you to talk through in more detail with your clients should they want you to get involved in that. So essentially it could even be seen as a cross-selling tool. But ultimately it's designed as a customer care tool. See, more meetings means what? Well, more meetings means more conversations. So you want high value conversations in those meetings so that your clients go, I'm staying with this firm. Yeah, I think they've been talking about management accounts, we should buy that if they're not already. Yeah, there's my brother-in-law's business, he seems to be struggling a little bit. They need to be put in touch with this firm of accountants because they're doing good stuff. And I know he's teed up a price increase, but you know what? I'm not going anywhere else because they really do genuinely care about what we're doing as a business. That's the power of Business Bite Size. Actually, it's the power of having more meetings and better conversations. Business Bite Size is just a tool, a resource on which you have better, high-value conversations with your customers when you run more meetings. So can you see, by definition, more meetings, better meetings gives you the 4 results we've talked about. Before we get on to the next video, what would be neat though is if below you record a comment about what stood out as being of most value in this brief video. You know, we've covered some deep but simple stuff really. What is it that stood out as being of most value to you, and what is it that you're going to do with it? I look forward to seeing you on the next video.